Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 22. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday, Steelers Nation. And for the first time, and hopefully not the last time in 2024, a victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers, beating the Atlanta Falcons 18-10 on Sunday. Not the prettiest win, but for week one on the road against a pretty unfamiliar team with a new coaching staff, new pieces. I'll take a win. However, Pittsburgh can get it, and that was through their defense and 6 Chris Boswell field goals. So a lot to talk about today, obviously, Dave, but overall, it's a good feeling to be 1-0 and atop the AFC North.
Absolutely. We're not opening up with gloom, despair, and agony on me like a year ago. Believe it or not, it was a year ago, September 10th, 30-7 home loss in week one to the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, getting a win, no matter how you do it in the NFL, is quite the accomplishment. We talked about how, top end of this schedule, this team really needs to make hay and start stacking these wins. And no, it wasn't the prettiest thing, especially on the offensive side of football. But we talked about how this team's likely to win a lot of games, especially if they're going to top, per se, the 8-9 win total in 2024. They're going to have to play really good defense, and they did that. There were some hiccups, obviously, early against the Falcons on that first drive, and then obviously on the touchdown drive had a bit of a snafu that we'll talk about there. But that defense, that front seven, and really the secondary too, and new Steelers. We're going to be talking about new Steelers today that really impacted this game as well. But happy Monday, Alex.
Let's do some housekeeping before we dive into this 18-10 win over the Falcons. To talk about some pregame stuff, some injuries. There are some notable news to pass along there. Before the game on Saturday, Pittsburgh making a roster move, placing rookie defensive lineman Logan Lee on injured reserve due to a calf injury that he appears to have suffered before the preseason finale against Detroit. Had not played and did not appear to have practiced since. The team elevating was it elevating or signing wide receiver Ben Skoranek from the
that was an squad. Elevation, a standard elevation, so he will revert back today.
So the roster spot on 53 has not officially been filled then, correct?
You are correct, sir. And I seeing the Rams lose, I don't know how serious the injury is to Puka Nacua, but first thought I thought was, oh man, are they going to come calling for Ben Skoranek? They're going to have to fill that spot on the active roster. That's why they only had 5 inactives for this game on Sunday, because of not filling the actual roster spot. The elevation made it 53. Really,
right. That thought
had to deal with.
That thought occurred to me as I was saying it out loud, that they technically have 52 on the roster right now. We'll see how they fill that. Steelers inactives for week one. And of course, the headline news here, which everyone should know by now, Russell Wilson was the emergency third quarterback, was considered inactive for this game. Justin Fields thought to start, Kyle Allen to be the number 2 quarterback. And so lots to talk about there. But that decision was made about 90 minutes to 2 hours before kickoff. Wilson went out for pregame warmups, did some light work according to reporters, about 10, 12 minutes. Didn't do a whole lot, though, went back into the tunnel. And as Justin Fields indicated post-game, Wilson himself told Fields he was going to start. He said that Wilson walked into the tunnel, into the locker room, and said, "You're up." And Fields was up, and he was the starting quarterback for this game. Other inactives for Pittsburgh included Isaac Seumalo, Roman Wilson, Dean Lowry, and Jalen Elliott. Elliott losing out that hat to Skoranek. So the 5 inactives, no big surprises. Lowry losing out to Loudermilk, though, and Elliott unable to get a hat after making the 53.
Yeah, not drop your jaw kind of decisions there, but I found it a little bit curious. Obviously, I thought Elliott would be up to be kind of the personal protector, and that ended up going to Miles Killebrew, I think. And I had Mark Robinson maybe losing a hat because of that. And then Mike Tomlin talked up Dean Lowry a little bit in that Mike Tomlin show, talk about how good a acquisition he thought that was during the offseason. I was a little unsure. Personally, I thought they would sit Loudermilk down, but they obviously, at least for this game specifically, like the prospects of Loudermilk over Dean Lowry. So once again, not shocking decisions when it comes to an inactive list, but I was expecting that to go the other way with a couple of guys.
Yeah, I get that. I think you could have debated Lowry versus Loudermilk there. And as you said, Loudermilk getting the edge over Dean Lowry. Wilson missing all that time and still was limited in practice throughout the week with that ankle injury. And yeah, Elliott just getting the squeeze there as one of that team's probably fifth and final inactive. All right, Dave, let's talk about this game. So much to discuss. 18-10 victory for Pittsburgh. Not the prettiest victory, but like I said, top of the show to go on the road. You're not really sure exactly what personality Atlanta would have, being a new coaching staff, not playing their starters in the preseason. It was kind of about just taking care of your own business, focusing on the self. While Pittsburgh was far from perfect and have a lot to clean up, they did not make the critical mistakes, offensively especially, that Atlanta did. And so in Pittsburgh, it's kind of like, was it like new Coke, same as old Coke? Like this 2024, win the same way as 2023, run the ball, control the clock, play great defense, win on special teams, don't make the big mistake. That's how they won last year. It's essentially how they won this game.
Yeah, there's a couple of key, obviously, core stats related to this. First and foremost, the Steelers win the turnover battle 3-0. That alone should secure victory, as Mike Tomlin likes to say. On top of that, they had three explosive plays on offense. The Steelers did. The Falcons had just one, and even that one was the arm punt, if you will, from Cousins to Ray McLeod, of all people. That TJ Watt got a little bit of a piece of there. So they won the talk stat 6-1, which obviously you should definitely secure victory when you do that. Third down, 8 of 17, 47%. And they even converted, I think, a couple of longer ones there near the start of the game, and had a lot more manageable ones, I think, as the game went on there. So that's look, if you don't turn the football over, we'll talk a little bit more about this as we move forward into this one, and you play the kind of stifling defense that you did, and you have a kicker that can kick a football from Savannah, Georgia, on into Atlanta, probably going to have a pretty good shot at winning the game. And yeah, it was close. A little bit of kind of wondering there towards the end of it if the defense would get, some key stops, and they obviously did with the late interception, and then obviously Watt seals it. What a game by TJ Watt, obviously, in this one. But there's a lot of in between of what I just said that needs to be covered.
Where do you want to start here, Dave? You want to take the offense, defense? I like to kind of just take a unit and discuss their play. You want to start here with offense and Fields and the overall performance of that group?
Yeah, let's start there. And obviously shaky overall to kind of start with there. You had a few miscommunications, execution with some snaps that got you worried out of the shoot there. You had to take a timeout. You had Fields missing Jefferson over there to the right side. It just looked kind of shaky, but they were able to overcome it on the first two drives and at least get some points out of it there. So they didn't. There was a lot of negativity on offense, especially negative plays overall. but I think the game plan overall was apparent as this thing got on. I thought first half Justin Fields played just good enough. I wanted him to see him play a little bit, or sans that last throw, which we'll talk about here, to get the field goal position to George Pickens. Thought that was amazing throw, and I know you got a film room up of that already for him to throw across the field like that. Great route by Pickens there. For him to have the arm strength to put that thing over there on that side of the field to Pickens was nice. Unfortunately for Pickens, he did step out of bounds, or else you're not going to get that field goal in that situation there. But left a little bit to be desired, I thought, in the first half with Justin Fields. I did feel, though, that he kind of settled down as the game went on. They were able to utilize a lot of things that he does well, i.e. his legs. Man, the amount of rushes that he had in this game. Would you track that in the stats of the weird, which is very entertaining this morning, as it usually is. First time that a Steelers quarterback has rushed for how many times in a game?
To my understanding, these are the most amount of rushes by a quarterback, 14 for Fields by a Steelers quarterback since the merger. Pre-merger stuff can be a little more difficult to decipher, but since 1970, no quarterback has had more than the 14 rush attempts that Justin Fields had in this game.
For Steelers, right?
For the Steelers, yes.
Right. A little bit of inaccuracy issues as it went on. Obviously, as the passing chart showed and kind of knew it would, did not attack the middle of the field at all. They were able to utilize his arm talent in key factors of this game. And look, that pass over to Pickens down that left side that George was called offensive pass interference on. I mean, that was just a ridiculous call. That one obviously would help out the stats all the way around when you talk about average depth of throw and completed air yards and all like that. So, you got to factor that into some of these stats, even though they don't officially count when you talk about Fields overall. But they did a lot of stuff that we've seen on Arthur Smith's tape in the past, and kind of these boots and half field easy reads for Justin Fields. And although his accuracy could have been better in this game, he did not turn the football over, and you had to kind of wonder if that was the onus on this. They obviously wanted to run the football. Man, the amount of, and we knew that this was going to be a lot of 12 and 13 personnel used in the Steelers offense for 2024 with Arthur Smith coming in. But boy, did they really load up. Here are the totals for you for personnel groupings from week 1. 11 personnel, which utilizes 3 wide receivers, 27 plays. Now, I did not include no play penalties in this. 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field, 20 snaps. 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, 17 snaps. 14 personnel, you could probably call that 22, maybe, if you really wanted to, depending on what you want to call Connor Hayward or whatever, but I view him as a tight end. I think the Steelers really, for the most part, do as well too. So 14 personnel, 2 plays with that. So the Steelers used 2 or more tight ends on 39 of 66 plays, 59.1% of the plays. They used 2 or more tight ends. And look, this was a very control the football, lean on the running game, Najee Harris particularly type of game, and that's how they attacked it. And outside of that, not you wish that OPI wouldn't have got called and that would have stood. But outside of some accuracy issues with Fields and the exchanges on a couple of them, and getting guys lined up, especially kind of early in the game, and then not burying the football in the red zone. You obviously did not have a touchdown in this game. It was enough to get the win on offense, but obviously the defense played a big part in this. So I thought it could have been better overall offensively, especially from the quarterback play.
Sure, when you score 18 points and they all come from your kicker, there's things this offense has to do. It has to be able to finish off drives. Had to be able to do that, you win probably pretty comfortably, as opposed to typical Steelers nail biter, comes down to the final drive, make the last play, let the defense close out the game fashion that Pittsburgh usually finds themselves in. I thought the first half game plan was pretty conservative. I mean, you had two third and long or third medium run calls, one on 3rd and 6, especially that set up the first possible 57-yarder. I mean, it just kind of shows you're trusting your kicker more than your quarterback to execute there. The other one was like 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18. I can understand running there to kind of get a couple yards, getting the more manageable range for Boz. But that was the kind of the tone of the game, was just play smart, play conservative, don't do the catastrophic. Don't make the catastrophic error and mistake, which is what Atlanta did with their 3 turnovers, and Pittsburgh had 0. And the stat line is very simple. And I know it's intuitive and it's true for a lot of teams, but it is more true for Pittsburgh than maybe any other club. Since, Ben retired, so 2022 to present, Pittsburgh is 14-2 when they do not turn the ball over at all, as they did or, avoided on Sunday. When they turn it over at least once, regardless of turnover differential, they are 6-13. So it's 14-2 versus 6-13. And that is the story of how the Pittsburgh Steelers win. I thought in the second half, there was a better game plan from Arthur Smith. As you said, field settled in. They kind of felt out what Atlanta was doing. Some more play action on early downs. You got some more rhythmic pass game going. As you said, the boots and the rollouts to stay on schedule better in the second half, I should say, on first and second down, to push yourself in some more manageable situations, to move the sticks earlier, to not play for third down. And so all of that seemed to be a little more improved in the second half, and a couple of shot plays, as you mentioned, the Pickens end of the first half, the one that went for 40 yards or whatever it was down the left sideline, the Pickens laid out for, able to kind of pick your spots in terms of when to be aggressive and throw the ball downfield. But offense, they knew their game plan. They didn't want to really stray from their personality. They wanted to run the heck out of the football, play smart, trust your kicker, trust your defense. That's exactly what happened.
I thought Najee had a really good game. Felt like he was either getting additional yards after contact in the second level and falling forward whenever he was hit as well, too. So I thought it was a nice game overall by him. I thought the offensive line, it was obviously a passing grade. They did enough. I didn't think it was a dominating performance, especially in the run blocking department. I thought there was some very nice snaps from Frazier. Boy, there's some in particular that I think you'll pick up on once you get to the all 22. That guy can fire off the line and get to the second level in a hurry. He has got some good quickness off the snap to be able to get into the second level there. So I like that. I tell you what was a bugaboo that stuck out on offense. Van Jefferson and his blocking. Not great, Bob. Got blown up several times, I thought, in this game that really impacted some plays overall. I thought the tight end blocking was okay overall. Once again, you using 2 and 3 tight ends. There were several instances where they used 12 personnel with Freiermuth off the field, using Michael Pruitt and Darnell Washington as the 2 blockers on the field. And I don't have the specifics. I'm waiting for Tom Mead to get the offensive charting back. But when I went through and charted all, at least the personnel groupings, as part of that 13 personnel, Scotty Miller was the lone wide receiver on the field for quite a few of those there. So when you watch the TV tape in totality, and I've made it through quite a bit of the all 22 so far, you can see exactly kind of what the game plan was. Now, look, when you have the safeties that the Falcons have in Bates and Simmons, you're probably not going to want to work that middle of the field too often. But on top of it, they did, I thought we might see, some mesh or some dagger or just some, a little bit more in breaking stuff. But there wasn't a lot of that in this game overall. They played more towards the edges and as you stated, more half field kind of easier type reads for Justin Fields. And I did think that in some design, both in some designed runs and then other opportunities for scramble type abilities. You really saw the usefulness of Fields and his legs there. And I really, really enjoyed that third and what was it, one in the when was it, in the second and a half, where they went 14 personnel and they spread them out to get a low box count, and Fields had the keeper for the easy first down. That's super creative, because if you throw out, that, let alone throwing out 13 personnel, you throw out 14 personnel, you're obviously going to get a heavy package against that. But to have the confidence to be able to spread that out, everybody spread out to lower the box count in there, especially when you have a quarter. Falcons probably should have called timeout.
Yeah,
there.
They were a mess. I mean, they're playing too high, and they got 3 guys on the line, and it's an easy quarterback design run for Fields.
And well, here's the thing: the play clock was ticking down too. It was like 2 or 1 second when the Steelers got the playoff. So I was worried about that. So by the time they had split them out, got everything set, the Falcons probably didn't have the wherewithal to even call timeout there. But I like that as well too. But once again, I think when you look at this in totality, you understand what they were trying to do offensively. And look, it's easy to look at the passing chart on this one and say, oh, man, was there some sort of force field or something, in the middle of the field? And obviously, we've talked about that over the years quite a bit with this offense. But this was very much by design.
Sure. Yeah, this is all about making easier and cleaner reads for Justin Fields and to limit potential mistakes and to be proactive and get out in front for a week that was messy when you have your quarterback that you think is your quarterback until, midway through Thursday's practice and he goes down, and then you're not quite sure. You probably, as an organization, believe that Fields would start, but still not 100% sure. Fields isn't positive himself until, 90 minutes, 2 hours before kickoff when you're on the road. It's week 1, all the unknowns to come with that. And then on top of new coaching staff, new scheme, new defensive players. It wasn't pretty. It felt a lot of, Friday night, Saturday noon kickoff more than Sunday afternoon, NFL offense. But whatever it takes to get a week 1 victory, I'm all for. I'm not going to judge it as harshly as I might something later in the season, given all the circumstances Pittsburgh was up against in this one. So the offense must be better. I don't want to put it on a pedestal and say this was fantastic, a great showing, 18 points, all from your kicker, 3 from 50 plus. That's not good enough. They have to get better, have to be able to convert, got to be able to do more in the passing game, as the season progresses. But to get the victory, it was enough in this one. Pittsburgh avoided those mistakes Atlanta did, and that proved to be the difference.
Look, he completed 17 of 23 passes in this game. And quite honestly, it should have been 18 of 24 to Pickens, with obviously a handful of more yards there. But his average air yards distance was 5.7 on all attempts, and his completed air yards was 6.0. The adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat was under 6, but because they didn't turn the ball over, and because the defense played as well as they did, they were, that was good enough. You wouldn't turnover battle 3-0 and all too. That was good enough in this specific game. So, what else stuck out to you offensively?
As you said, it felt pretty old school for Najee Harris to be the lead back. I guess Pittsburgh wanted to be a little careful with Jaylen Warren in this one off the hamstring injury, despite him being full for Friday's practice and seemingly healthy. Maybe some little risk there by not wanting to press him too much and put too much on his plate. Cordell Patterson ended up getting 4 snaps and kind of worked in some third down situations. So as you said, some tough mudding for Harris, and he had that 20-yard run with some good vision and finished off some hard runs because Pittsburgh, I mean, Atlanta knew that Pittsburgh was going to run the ball a lot in this one. They were stacking the box and they were still making hay, and that's impressive to see. What were your impressions of the offensive line? I got to go through the all 22 more. You're a little ahead of me on that. I've been focusing on charting the Steelers defense. How do you think the O-line did individually and collectively?
Good, not great overall. Once again, I thought, look, that being Frazier's first start, I really, first time through the all 22, wanted to kind of key in on him, and I thought he played a good game overall. I thought Dan Moore, look, only time I think I typed Broderick Jones' name in Twitter on Sunday was wondering how the hell they penalized him during that scuffle down the field overall. They had Spencer Anderson on the move quite a bit, pulling him out, getting him on the move. Obviously, a lot of counter stuff in this as well. I thought, for the most part, that stuff was executed well. I thought Dan Moore played a pretty good game overall. I did not come out of that game though thinking, oh man, here's what happened though, is the game went on, first game of the season. The Falcons, I don't know how much they played. They didn't play a lot of those defensive guys a lot during the preseason either, did they? And
no.
Didn't D'Orlando even tell us that they're not a tackling team during camp and all, and that even he thought maybe the physicality aspect of this would play into this game? Boy, he couldn't be more right, because later on in the game, it felt like the Steelers had the upper hand. We're getting the bigger push on the offensive line. We're the more physical team later in the game. So I think that component, I think that's when I felt the best about the offensive line was a little bit later in the game, as far as that goes. Anderson, I thought, look, it was good enough to secure victory. I thought it was a little up and down with his first game at left guard, but on the flip side, it wasn't awful on top of it. But good, not great performance by the offensive line.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll have to see my evaluation, but I'm betting it's going to be pretty similar. Anderson called for a false start, did give up a sack that was off of I think, run action, and Goldman kind of got him there on the edge and took Fields down. But yeah, overall, they gave a lot of tight end help, obviously, some more max protection. And when you change the launch point, it kind of cuts down on, how much you're asking out of your offensive line. But overall, winning performance, as you pointed out. And yeah, I think Pittsburgh, their camp philosophy may help, but just they had the ball in this one. They wore Atlanta down because they possessed the football. Time of possession, 35-36 for Pittsburgh, 24 and change for Atlanta. And then look at the fourth quarter and really the second half. And I have the stat here somewhere for the fourth quarter. It was all Pittsburgh controlling the football. And so that wears down that defense. You just run and run and run at them and just, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Fourth quarter time of possession, Pittsburgh 11-21, Atlanta 3-39. And so, that's how you just take it to them. And you close out the game by possessing the football and limiting the number of possessions, opportunities that Atlanta had. I think they had 5 second half possessions. That was it. And they were all pretty short, 3 plays, 5 plays, 2 plays. So, I think Pittsburgh won the war of attrition in this game.
I thought as the game wore on, Arthur Smith was a little bit more comfortable, maybe trying to throw out of 2-3 tight end sets, a little bit more willing to run out of 11, although I don't think that I've got it charted as far as groupings. I did not look specifically to see how they ran out of 11, but I'll tell you this once again, when Van Jefferson's got to get better as a blocker if they're going to run out of 11. They're also asking Calvin Austin to do some things that, bless his heart, he gives effort, but not in his wheelhouse overall. Some of those crack tosses, what do you think about that?
In terms of the call or the execution?
Just the execution of them.
I'll have to go back and watch.
Obviously, if they're executed great with a guy like Najee. Look, Najee was able to get the edge on one of those early runs as well, too, where the blocking didn't seem all that. What did he get, 7-8 yards and all on that. But look, there's room for improvement on offense. I think we both can. Anybody listening to this can agree. And we're going to have a little better talk about Fields moving forward here, probably later in the show here. But when you go 17 of 23 in a game in what he was asked to do in this game, and then once again, the OPI on Pickens not counting, should have made it 18 for 24. How far down the field was that, Alex? Like 30?
I think it was would have been a 36-yard completion, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
So you're looking at 18-24 for, let's say, 186 there. What he was asked to do, I thought he did effectively. Now, there was the pass early on the right side to Jefferson where he should have hit that. The screen over to Najee on the left side could have been better placed. Thought those were two that really stuck out from the accuracy standpoint. I thought, what was the one to Austin where maybe he kind of hitched in his...
Yeah, he was late.
Yeah, late getting that there. That was one of the incompletions. So we just named 3 of the 5 incompletions. And if you're able to, without going deep into study in less than 24 hours after the game, be able to name off the incompletions, it's probably been a pretty decent day, at least from a completion standpoint goes. But once again, at least when asked to push the football down the field, he was able to do it. Man, that deep one down to Pickens, the way Pickens had him set up, and Pickens had the inside leverage and running with him. And I think Dan Orlovsky pointed this out last night. There's a tendency maybe there to put that ball more on the outside, more towards the boundary line there. And he made sure he put that where George could work back into the inside and go get it. And Pickens did a great job of leaning into his man and keep pushing him out that way. And then we can probably have another 30-minute discussion about the down on contact on that play there. But what Justin Fields was asked to do in this game, I thought he did well.
And he knew where his bread was buttered. He knew to use his legs and to find 14, to find George Pickens. And Pickens made up over half this team's passing yards. I mean, George Pickens had 6 catches for 85 yards. The other receivers combined had 2 receptions for 8 yards. It's a very classic Arthur Smith-looking stat line. But Fields and Pickens had a really good chemistry in training camp, and Fields benefited from getting all those extra reps because had Wilson not gotten hurt and he was the 1 and Fields the 2, then Fields is not going to work much with George Pickens in camp. But because Fields was the 1 for the first 10, 12 practices, he gets a bunch of work with Pickens. They kind of are able to develop their chemistry, and you see that carry over in game where Fields trusts, Pickens to throw it up for him and allow Pickens to go get it on that 40-yarder and on that 33-yarder at the end of the first half that was so huge to make it 10-9 instead of 10-6 going into the break. And so that was another great throw by Fields from the left hash to throw it right sideline. It was a good route by Pickens, and could also talk about him trying to maybe do a little too much there and almost end the half there, but stepped out of bounds. So it all worked out. All is well that ends well. But
they needed a break in that first half that, the way the officials, we'll talk about that here in a little bit there.
But Fields, he used his legs, he used his arm downfield, took care of the football enough, and that's enough to get a win on a day like this with the defense that Pittsburgh has.
I could do without having us talking about on podcasts a lot moving forward of some of these third down plays to, we got Boz, he can kick it from Savannah, Georgia. Kind of playing for a field goal, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that 3rd and 6, they ran with Patterson early to set up the first Boz field goal was very much kind of emblematic of this team saying we trust our kicker more than we trust our offense and our quarterback to convert here on 3rd and 6 to play for a 57-yarder instead. Now it all worked out, but I'm betting that call is not made of Russell Wilson as the quarterback of the Steelers on Sunday.
All right. How'd you like how'd you like the balance of the personnel groupings? I think you said at the top, the play calling got better, especially as you got into the second half. He felt Arthur Smith felt like he was getting kind of synced in, and obviously Justin Fields, I thought after a little bit of a shaky start, kind of got settled into the game a little bit more as well too, especially with Najee running the way that he did. Cordell Patterson got a few more snaps than kind of what I envisioned maybe in this game, but that might have to do with maybe them trying to take it easy on Jaylen Warren a little bit coming off of that hamstring. Patterson had 9 snaps in this game, and he had 4 rushes for 13 yards. I don't think he had a target in this game overall. The Pickens in the round on kind of a reverse pivot by
everyone's running that play this week.
By Connor Hayward on that, kind of that wind back from him on that didn't go anywhere. Boy, if you could have eliminated some of this negative plays in this thing, it would have probably looked a little bit better on the stat sheet for sure.
Give me some quick snap counts if you have them. How many snaps did Jaylen Warren ultimately play? Obviously, as you said, his usage seemingly limited by the hamstring injury suffered against Buffalo.
He played 21.
Okay, so there still was a decent amount of snaps, probably some good third down work in there, I'm guessing, but not a lot of actual action. When he's not getting the early down carries as Najee Harris did. What about, besides Pickens, who were the top receiver snap leaders? It's probably some smaller numbers there, but who was second and third behind Pickens at wide receiver?
Well, Van Jefferson out-snapped him at 49, 46. Okay. I would not have, if you would have, I wouldn't have bet that to happen there. Calvin Austin, 28 snaps. Scotty Miller, 17. But once again, a lot of those 17 snaps of Scotty Miller seemingly came in 13 personnel with the 3 tight ends on the field, which was a little bit curious, but not harmful, obviously, overall. Did Scotty Miller even have a target in this game? No, he did not.
He did some other important things in this game. Help this team win.
We'll talk about that for sure. Connor Hayward, 5 snaps in this one. Because once again, when they went 3 tight ends on the field for the heavy 13 personnel usage that they had in this game, Pat Freiermuth, Pruitt, and Darnell Washington were part of that. 2 tight end groupings. They used a lot of Washington and Pruitt. And
your best blockers, yeah.
Right. And Hayward, once again, they used 14 personnel twice. And so Hayward was on the field for both those snaps. So he got 3 other snaps other than that. I think those maybe came later in the game as part of 11. I'm not sure.
Well, that would make sense. Hayward not known for the great inline blocking and for this kind of game plan, this rock'em sock'em robots approach. Hayward may not have fit that perfectly. But in terms of personnel groupings, not surprised when you're ahead, you're playing your game, your style. It's not as much 11. It's a lot of multi-tight end, which is the numbers you're outlining to us, falls very much in line with what Arthur Smith likes to do. So really no surprise there.
Okay, and we talked a lot heading into this thing, kind of what we expected out of Arthur Smith as a whole. All off season from the moment he was hired, as far as schematics and what he likes to do with these, quarterbacks on the move and rolling them out, boots and things of that nature. Obviously, we talked a lot about the personnel groupings. Was there anything really overall that caught you that was a bit surprising to you offensively, schematically?
No, not off the top. Again, I got to go through the tape again. You're ahead of me in terms of watching back the offense, but it was really like I said, hallmarks and classic Arthur Smith offense. Some RPOs, moving the launch point, running the ball heavy. That's what he wants to do.
I hearken back to that original coaches clinic that you wrote and posted about. Who was that with the Carolina staff? Back, boy, it seems like a year ago now. But
it was right after he got hired.
But I mean, if it from that point forward, that a long way of saying I'm with you. I wasn't overly surprised schematically here with what they did offensively.
Let's go to the defense now, and a little shaky start. They settled in. Atlanta moved the ball well the first quarter, I would say, the first possession in particular. But man, that second half defense was lights out. I mean, they were as dominant as you're going to be in 2024. And so hats off to them. Pittsburgh really won this game because of the strength of their defense and, of course, the strength of Chris Boswell. But defensively, the Falcons could do nothing. Anyway, I mean that literally could do nothing in the second half of this game.
I was a little bit worried on that first drive, but they did settle down. They only gave up the field goal in that situation there. It seemed like the Falcons were running downhill a little bit on them in this one to start with, but boy, they put a cap on it in really in a hurry from there. And we've talked about, man, this front seven, and if these guys stay healthy, this is going to be a unit to reckon with. And it was as the game wore on. A couple of nice adjustments. Boy, early on, even on that opening drive, even though it was objectively the Steelers' worst one defensively of the game, Larry Ogunjobi was busy on that drive. How many times did we say over the course of the last 3 weeks, man, if there's one guy that looks the best he's looked, in a Steelers uniform, is Larry Ogunjobi. And I thought Larry played a really, really good game. That looked like that Larry Ogunjobi from a couple years ago before he went down with that foot injury there. Like what I saw out of him. You told us that we should expect the three outside linebackers on the field more this season, and we did see that. Do you have the charting done on that yet?
I have it all charted. I haven't tabulated the amount of snaps. There was probably about a half dozen examples, and they all came in obvious pass situations, including the final 2 snaps of the game before TJ Watt called game with his sack. And it was all, Herbig as the 3 tech, or maybe on one of those snaps standing up as an outside linebacker, but right over guard. And so that was exactly what I saw in training camp. That one day I reported that was the same amoeba package, 1 defensive lineman, 3 outside linebackers, Herbig as the 3 tech on the same side as TJ Watt. They showed that in camp during one 2-minute period one day. That's exactly what they showed against Atlanta.
That Watt guy's pretty good. They should keep him. I mean, look, we could very easily make this the TJ Watt podcast as well, too. Raheem Morris had said earlier in the week, we're not going to let him wreck this game. Well,
famous last words.
Yeah, they let him wreck this game, and it could have been wrecked even more had the laundry not come out on the field there for him. So, once again, we're speaking to the choir here when talking about TJ Watt. Thought he, obviously, had that huge run stop early, being able to just shift back inside there. They were trying to chip him and everything with Pitts and a back, and he was still able to make hay on that side over there. Keanu Benton wasn't as dominant as I thought he could have been. Now, there was one instance in there where he got past the center of the guard. It looked like guy dove out on him and tried to trip him up there, kind of impact him there. Montravius Adams, man. Oh, boy. He looked spry, especially on that sack that he had. And he just barely beat Cam Hayward, who had swam over his guy on that one for the sack there. Run fills got better as the game went on. This team trusts Peyton Wilson. That's one takeaway for sure that we can come out of this first game with. Peyton Wilson logged 24 snaps in this game. He outsnapped Landon Roberts by 1 snap in this one here. Wilson also really probably had a touchdown saving tackle early in that game as well too. He can what was my main takeaway about the initial tape watch that I wrote down on Peyton Wilson? He can move. and we saw that in this game. So this expect to see Peyton Wilson on this field, as we move forward into this thing, into this season here. What can you say about the two newcomers, Alex, Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott?
Yeah, making impact plays, and they were underrated additions, overshadowed by all the quarterback movement and signing Patrick Queen. But to have Jackson with a pick and nearly two, should have had two, and Elliott with a great interception as well. I think they both had a couple pass deflections in this one. I mean, that is just steady veteran presence that Pittsburgh needed and, would have been missing. And so there's been a lot of turnover in the secondary, but getting impact plays from those guys is massive. And Jackson talked about on his interception, it was a very similar concept to what Atlanta ran on the touchdown, a post wheel concept, and they got on the first one where Pitts was all alone, wide open for an easy touchdown. And Jackson was not going to be fooled again. So veteran guys don't make the same mistake twice. They learn, adjust, and when they see it presented to them again, they make the play. And you got to give Ogunjobi credit because on both those picks that Cousins threw, Ogunjobi had either the solo pressure or was in there combined to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. That happened on the Elliott one. He got some late pressure in there over right guard, and on the Jackson interception as well. Yeah, with Peyton Wilson, just a quick note, it's what I expected. Roberts played in base and Wilson played in nickel. And so because Atlanta was running more 11 personnel under Zach Robinson and Sean McVay disciple, you were getting Wilson out there more. That number could ebb and flow based on game circumstance, based on the opponent you're facing. But that's the configuration of how linebacker snaps went. Queen, your every down guy, Roberts in base, and Wilson in nickel. And yeah, that was huge tackle on Bijan on that first drive to hold him to 3.
We knew that Cousins would be in pistol shotgun quite a bit, and he was. Don't think they ran very little under center stuff. Why weren't they using play action? Why weren't they running out of shotgun more? Kirk Cousins looked rusty for sure in this one. That's the byproduct of him obviously coming off the injury, them trying to protect him a lot in this first game. And yeah, I think they paid the price for it overall because of that. He looked very uncomfortable at times in that offense there. So, don't understand some of the decisions that they made, especially not running out of shotgun specifically. They did run a lot of pistol in this game, I think, and ran out of that. How many opportunities did he get to take even deep shots down the field?
Essentially 0. I'm not sure if there was really one, what the pass chart says, but Pittsburgh kept the lid on this thing for sure. And as long as it's not one of the elite guys, a Tom Brady, a Peyton Manning, Pittsburgh's defense always matches up better against the pocket passer than the mobile quarterback. When it's the mobile quarterback, that guy can scramble, extended play. It's a little harder for Pittsburgh to defend traditionally. They've had some bad moments against that. When it's kind of your even decent, above average pocket passing quarterback, as you could probably characterize Kirk Cousins as, it's much easier because he's kind of a sitting duck back there, and the pass rush is able to get to him and finish plays and really mess with him and get hits on him and make that guy fearful of the rush even more so. So Cousins just looked in pain. You could probably have a good screenshot collage of him bracing for impact as TJ Watt came off the edge, or as Larry Ogunjobi came up the middle, or Hayward or Adams, as you said. That's Adams' first sack since 2018. It's been 6 years since Montravius got a sack, so that one probably feels really good for him. And so congratulations to Montravius Adams, because it's been a long time coming.
Who was that quarterback he sacked last?
I would have never guessed the last full sack he had on a quarterback, not a half sack, but the last full sack he had 2018 against the Miami Dolphins. Brock Osweiler, who I had no memory of even being a Dolphin, but started 5 games for them that year. So that was crazy stat and a great moment there for Mon Adams.
There's a couple of stats related. I have not charted that side of the ball. I know you just got the base stuff down there. But Phil Yates from ESPN Stats and Info, or via ESPN Stats and Info, Falcons were in pistol or shotgun on 96% of their snaps on Sunday. Of the 22 snaps out of shotgun, they had 0 designed runs. Out of the 26 snaps out of pistol, they ran the ball in 81% of their plays out of pistol. There's another thing here. Eye-popping advanced stat. Atlanta worked out of the pistol set on 52% of its plays, according to Next Gen Stats. Cousins had never taken more than 10 snaps out of the pistol in a game during his 13-year career. He was 2 of 4 for 15 yards and an interception throwing out a pistol. So once again, him coming off of the injury, them trying to protect him not playing in the preseason. It looked like he just rolled out of bed and, they trying to formulate a game plan out of there. And the Steelers obviously picked up on it, was able to adjust all that. So that obviously their schematics. I bet their podcast people are going through the roof this morning.
Yeah, and again, second half, I'm trying to dial in. Maybe you can help me. How many second half yards Atlanta had? I always kind of get mixed up with net yards and total yards and those types of things.
I can give it to you from both aspects. Let's see here. Second half. Might have to put this in.
It wasn't much. Some different numbers out there trying to cobble together, make sure I'm accurate. But bottom line is Atlanta did nothing in the second half of this one. It was all Pittsburgh, and partly because Pittsburgh controlled the clock and had the ball offensively, possessed it. But then even out there with Atlanta defensively, I mean, they had 5 drives, I think 3 punts. You had or maybe 2 punts and an interception, end the game. I mean, they just did not do anything. Every drive was no longer than 5 plays, and Pittsburgh with 2 takeaways and TJ Watt with the game-winning sack.
Let's see. It looks like 45 regular yards, 13, 23, 23, and 26 is what? What's 23 and 26? 49 minus 2 on the final in the game. What does that make? 47? Is that what I said?
Yeah, 49 minus 2.
And then in net yards, they had 13 minus 5, that's 8, plus 7 is 15, 15 plus 12.
27. Yeah, That's the number I'm looking for. So they had 21 plays and 27 net yards, which is just, I mean, that is a level of dominance you don't see in 2024.
They ran 10, 16. They ran 21 second half plays on 6 possessions in the second half.
It had 27 yards on net yards on 21 plays.
That's hard. That's hard to do.
Yeah, it really is. But hats off to Pittsburgh.
They went fumble, punt, interception in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and that is just. I know there's a lot of sloppiness in week 1. Look around the league. Some of the passing numbers are pretty low. I mean, how many quarterbacks were under 200 yards in this one? I think probably half the league. But Pittsburgh still played at a level. I mean, if this defense stays healthy, it's not always going to be this good. There's going to be ebbs and flows. You're going to face really good offenses, some better offenses that settle in throughout the season. But we said beginning of the year, this could be a top 5 scoring unit, and they've done nothing to dissuade me from that thought one game in.
Kirk Cousins had a 2.39 adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat against the Steelers.
Is that bad?
That's bad.
Not
good. Made Justin Fields look like Tom Brady, and Justin Fields was under 6 there. So look, dominant performance, and they needed that out of that defense to that style of game. That's the way they're going to try to win games, is have a stifling defense, and you obviously hope the Steelers offense gets better, and it should get better as things go on, but got to score more points.
Yeah, but just to go back to the defense one more time, It was a whole team effort. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, open field tackles, that one run fill that he had on Bijan down in the hole, and that cutback where there's some space, there's some grass, and Minka cleaned it up right away. I thought Beanie Bishop had a couple good tackles, even the next to last play that he tackled that Falcons player inbounds to keep the clock running, to force the spike. Probably wouldn't have changed the outcome materially, but still, it's just a great open field tackle by Beanie Bishop, who played a bunch of snaps in this game, even more than what I thought he would. Played some in some dime packages. So Corey Trice getting extra work in there. Just total team effort.
He was kind of caught in no man's land on that touchdown there, where he probably worried about something getting dumped up underneath, and then having to sink back into that open area where Pitts was. But Cousins was able to extend the play on that one, and that's going to happen from time to time.
Yeah, you talk about week one. There's teams that are running the same plays. You have that reverse. The Chiefs ran to Worthy, that Pittsburgh tried to run to Pickens. The other concept I've seen a ton is that the Dino wheel, that double post wheel, and that's what the Pitts touchdown was. You had a double post and then wheel behind for Pitts, and you had something in the flat for Bishop to kind of hold him underneath, and Pitts got behind on the wheel, which I think it was what the Eagles ran for a touchdown on Saquon Barkley. His great catches, same concept. Tight end instead of a running back, but it's pretty popular. But Pittsburgh did not make the same mistake twice when Atlanta went back to that. Something very similar in the second half. That was Jackson's big interception and a great return too. As the convoy blockers breaking a tackle, put that ball in field goal range. So Jackson, the interception was great, but then the return element of it as well.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else to add about it? Defense, just a really good performance. You take away that first drive, and obviously the mishap on the touchdown there. Defense stifling. TJ Watt stifling. What do you think about the offsides on TJ Watt? What do you the officiating just overall was obviously a lot of calls went against the Steelers in this one.
Yeah, I know I might have my black and gold glasses on here, but I thought he was good. I thought he timed it up perfectly. I mean, he's literally keying the head bob of the center, Drew Dahlman, and keying the ball. I mean, that's where Watt's eyes are at. And he talked about that gold nugget that he had, which I assume was just kind of based off of his head bob and the way the kind of rhythm and flow that they would work the count. And Watt picked up on something important there. So it was close, obviously, but I thought it was clean. I thought it was timed perfectly by TJ Watt. And if that had stood, there's no touchdown, because the next play after that penalty was the Pitts touchdown.
Right. Didn't he say the referee told him he messed up on that?
Yeah. Watt told Mike Garafolo post game that the official after half, when he got to review what the ref did, admitted that he made a mistake on that. So, doesn't help you. There's no do-over there. The other one, and then Watt had the strip sack in the second half that was negated by the Dante Jackson penalty, which was a fair call. That was illegal hands to the face. I'm not going to complain about that one. But, I mean, Watt really had 3 sacks in this one, 2 forced fumbles, really should have had 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, he had the best performance. The box score will never tell.
Especially when he was told he was not going to be allowed to be a game wrecker in this one. I mean, just classic Watt game there. I wonder what his win rate was.
Yeah.
The OPI call.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty weak. I think receivers do that all the time. I didn't feel like Terrell was really moved off his spot and he didn't change the course of the way he was running. I think whenever you see the corner kind of get moved and shifted off of his spot, that's when you would call OPI. So, I get the mechanism that Pickens put his hands on Terrell, so the appearance of it might draw that, but I didn't see really any forcible contact that changed the positioning of Terrell, so I would have let it go.
I would have let it go as well, too. Very, very ticky-tack. Najee getting his helmet ripped off?
Yeah, I mean, they probably should. I mean, they should have called it, obviously, but I kind of get into play to miss that. I mean, I don't want to sound super homerish here and complain about every single call. I kind of get that one at the end, that maybe that one's harder to see because it's happening pretty late in the play down near the pile.
All right, special teams.
Yeah, I don't want to bury the lead here. We mentioned Boss's name a couple times, and obviously he was fantastic in this one and leaned on entirely to produce all 18 points. I mean, the kick 3 from 50 plus yards, and they weren't even just like not to call 50 easy, but they were 56, 57.
Savannah.
I mean, then the other one from 51. I mean, that is just Pittsburgh has never had a kicker like that could hit from 50 consistently. Used to be, even in away venues, certainly at home and at Heinz Field, you wouldn't be able to kick from 50 plus, but even away, it would rarely happen. But you have a kicker that can do it almost automatically, which is such a weapon to have for an offense that is still struggling to finish drives off.
All right. We got one other note, obvious note from Boswell later in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he had to become punter Chris Boswell. Unfortunately, to mention the injury here, Cameron Johnston suffering what appears to be a serious knee injury that if it's not season ending, it'll be a surprise and we'll hope for it, but not looking good for him. That happened in the fourth quarter where Killebrew's man kind of pulled him into Johnston and caught his knee and buckled, and Johnston carted off. So we'll get official word on that. Probably we'll have that information here soon, but looking very poor for Johnston. They'll sign a punter here, obviously, this week, but to get out of that stadium, Boswell had to come in and punt. And the good news is the Boswell has a bit of a punting background. He punted 15 times at Rice and then punted 15 times at the Houston Texans as a rookie in 2014. And his last punt in 2014 in the final preseason game was pretty similar to his punt he had against Atlanta. So kind of a fun stat of the weird there, but Boz literally doing it all in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. He should be. There was another kicker that made quite a few field goals yesterday as well too. But Boswell having
the NFC. Who was it? Was it Forbath? Who had the other 6 field goal game?
I'm drawing a blank here.
Or was it Forbath in the AFC? Hold on.
I don't remember, but
Schefter had a tweet about it.
Yeah.
But Boz should still get it because I don't know if the other kicker had 3. I think the other kicker had 3 from 50 plus, right? Was that it? Was that the stat that Schefter had? Oh, let me go ahead. It was Houston's Fairbon.
Okay.
Excuse me. He had 3 from 50 plus. I don't know how many field goals overall they had. Probably not 6. So I think Boswell should still get it for the punt as well. Because listen, you put in backup specialists, you never know how that thing's going to go. You don't really practice that. And so for Boz to come in and hit a clean ball, and then Scotty Miller, man, what a performance by him to be the backup gunner as Darius Rush, who's in concussion protocol, is out. So Miller comes in, makes a tackle for no gain. So a 43-yard net, which is awesome. And then, as you pointed out, to be the backup holder and a slightly high snap for him to corral and put down clean. I mean, just take your hat off to Scotty Miller.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Tomlin for sure gave Scotty Miller his flowers, along with Chris Boswell after the game there, to come in like that in a situation where you got to, really need that field goal there at the end of the game, and to handle a slightly high snap and get it down like he's done it all of his life there. So kudos to him. What do you think about the punt coverage overall?
I mean, fortunately, you didn't have to do a whole lot of it. The first real return was poor. 30-yard net, 58-yard punt by Johnston, 28-yard return. Skoranek was not even on the screen, and Rush was down there, but the return man ran away. So that's still a concern. And the gunners in this one were Skoranek, who's not been a gunner in the NFL before. That was new to him, and Darius Rush. And so, we'll see what Rush's status is, but still some concern there.
Calvin Austin III, 4 punt returns for 47 yards for 11.8 average. There's nothing wrong with 11.8 average in the NFL as a punt returner.
Yeah, he had a couple nice returns, caught the corner, showed his speed. There was even penalties that brought back some other returns. Yeah, too many penalties, too much sloppiness there, I think, overall from special teams. From that aspect, the penalty aspect of it all, there was like 2 blocks in the back on the one play. I think one by Killebrew and not sure the other one, maybe Mark Robinson. But just quickly on Miller, I was trying to find back, like, did he ever hold before? And I can't even find any examples of him holding. I was knee deep in the Barrington High School 2012, 2013 Alex. Footage, and I don't think he even held in high school. I didn't see him out there. Like Cam Sutton was the emergency holder when he was here, and he held in high school. And I don't think Miller even did at all. So I'm not sure how that came about to him getting some holding work, but thank God they think that Boswell said they got some work in during the week just in case, and they needed just in case on Sunday.
Oh, I love you. You love going down those rabbit holes.
I was trying to find something.
All right. Anything else from the game?
I mean, I'm sure. Again, I got to go
What
through
do you
the
think
tape more.
about the decision to go for the fourth down and not kick the field goal to go up 8? Mike Tomlin
I
says that's who we are.
don't live in our fears. I'm good with it. I'm not going to critique the decision. I know it's easy to do with the benefit of hindsight, but you've been running the ball well. If you punch the ball in for a touchdown on that drive, which you've been trying to do, you put the game away right then, right there. So I'm okay with the call. Execution, unfortunate. Again, some of the stuff about getting to the line and guys being on the same page, didn't feel like the line was super set and ready for that one. That was an issue, obviously, but the actual decision, I'm okay with.
Like Mike Tomlin said, you can't get 1 yard, right?
And they've been running the ball well and pushing the pile forward. So they'd run some sneaks, I think, earlier in that game and been successful. So I'm not gonna. I mean, I wouldn't have been totally mad had he kicked the field goal, but I think in terms of making the decision without the benefit of hindsight, I'm okay with going for it there.
All right, I'll roll it back to this. Just some of the key stats in the game. Third down, Steelers 8 of 17, 47%. Ain't nothing wrong with that. The Falcons were 2 of 9 on third down for 22%. Steelers turnover battle 3-0. Nothing wrong with that. Steelers gave up one explosive play, that play to Ray McLeod off that floater from Cousins. The Steelers had 3 explosive plays on offense. Probably at least should have been 4 with the OPI on Pickens there. So you won the Talks battle 6-1. Nothing wrong with that. Statistically, it all matches up for a Steelers win.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh played the game they wanted to play in a lot of regards. Again, great defense, special teams, run the ball, control the clock, create turnovers, don't make the mistake yourself. That's, it's not pretty, but that's how Pittsburgh has been winning. It's how they won again. And yet again, in one-score games, no one better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin, 61% plus in one-score games. Yes, you want to score more points. You don't want to have to win every single game by a slim margin, a one-score margin, but when you play those tight games, Pittsburgh is the victor far more often than not. They were 9-2 last year, one-score games. They're 1-0 to begin 2024.
I think Dan Graziano had some sort of meme or something. How does he keep getting away with this?
With the divisional standings or something, wasn't it on there?
Something like that. I think it was related to what? I forget what the context was, but how do they keep getting away with this? Okay. Did you went over the injuries? Rush getting evaluated for a concussion. Obviously, we'll wait to see what happens with probably going to be bad news with Cameron Johnston. They got to bring in one of their 3 former punters, Presley Harvin, Corliss Waitman, or Brad Wing coming to town.
Would make sense to have some familiarity, especially from a holder perspective. Harvin did punt well in San Francisco. I don't want to convince myself into believing that Harvin can be a dramatically different punter. Waitman would be interesting. He's on a practice squad right now, I think. Is he in Denver's practice squad, or where's Waitman at? He's out there. He was in a camp this year.
I know he. I don't know where he's at. Let me see real quick.
He was in Chicago. If Wikipedia is to be trusted, he's apparently a free agent right now. Wouldn't mind bringing Waitman in. He's got a big leg.
All right.
He's a lefty. I think he's a lefty too, which is an interesting challenge for opposing teams to deal with.
All right. So it feels like there's a good chance it might be one of those 3, but I haven't looked at who all is available right now when it comes to that. All right. We covered injuries. Let's talk about what this team does moving forward into week 2 if Russell Wilson is deemed healthy enough to start.
I say this still, as I've said before, needing to go through the tape on Fields, but have a pretty good feeling for how he did on Sunday. I would still turn to Russell Wilson, assuming that he's healthy and cleared and ready to run your offense without the risk of re-injury and more significant injury. I give Fields credit. He made plays. They won. He said all the right things. I loved him after the game. He was asked about, did you show enough to convince his team to keep you as a starter? And Fields said, I just want to win. That's all my focus was on winning today. And I don't care how many yards I throw for. I think he's a really solid dude, solid teammate, a slow heartbeat kind of guy where nothing seems to bother him. And that's all impressive and commendable. But, you could feel, and maybe part of that is because the Fields was kind of announced as a starter pretty late. I mean, literally like the last second, and that may have, caused a little bit of hesitation by Pittsburgh in their game plan, but they were super conservative with Fields. It was very much a don't lose this game kind of game plan. When you're running on 3rd and 6 to set up a 57-yard field goal, kind of says what you're thinking about your quarterback. Just don't screw this up. Let's win this low scoring slugfest. And, Paul Fields did not make the massive mistake. There was a fumble. There was nearly another botch exchange. They had issues getting to the line. They had to call a timeout on a 3rd down because they could not get settled. It was an ugly sequence in, I think, the second half on a 3rd down where no one could get set up. No one could get a line. They were called for, I think, illegal formation. The 4th and 1 play that sneaked that failed. The line didn't seem totally set. So just some fundamental things this team was still missing with Fields in there. And I think this team would have more confidence and have a more aggressive, open approach with Wilson in there. So I didn't see enough from Fields. It tells me that this guy, should be the starter longer term.
I'm 100% in step with you there. What I saw out of Fields, obviously, once again, he did what he was asked to do, but he did not do enough that makes me go, oh, this unquestioned. This is now his job to lose. Not saying that Russ comes in and ends up being the end all do all in that, but Fields did not do enough to make me think that Russell Wilson should not be the starter when healthy. Now, look, the fact that Russell Wilson basically did a dog and pony, if you will, pregame against the Falcons, and now you only have another. And I know Russell Wilson said, I think I'm healthy enough, blah, 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 and all like that. I'm not entirely convinced yet that he's. And look, it rolls back to the decision ahead of this one, right? If Russell Wilson is not healthy enough to do the things that you want to do with him in your offense, then he should not be out there.
And calf strains are tricky. And Pittsburgh was cautious in the summer, in part because it was July and they had time to be cautious, but there is no guarantee he's going to be 100% good to go. And if Pittsburgh wants to get a longer look at Fields, they could certainly string out the calf injury for a little bit and use that as an excuse for another week. That would be, I think, a plausible thing to try to sell.
Fields' performance was good enough that they should not rush Wilson back, because the last thing, and I wrote this in my preview ahead, I don't want to be talking every other week moving forward about, oh man, Russ and that calf,
Mm-hmm.
Get him healthy to be the quarterback that you think he can be within that offense. And once again, Fields was not, he played well enough for what they asked him to do. And, you got Denver coming up, and you don't want to look too far ahead, and Bo Nix this and this, that, and the other. But if they played that same kind of game and you don't turn the football over, it feels like you could still beat Denver with Justin Fields, especially if you clean up some of the things that you had your ills on offense, if you will, there. But if Russell Wilson this week is deemed 100% healthy and the team thinks that he can go out there and do what they want him to do in that offense, I think Russell Wilson should start.
Yeah, I'm with you. And obviously you want to protect Wilson and make sure the small injury does not become a big injury. But at some point, you're going to make a call and be like, are you healthy or not? Can you play or not? And it's a minor injury. I mean, if it's anything like camp, you wouldn't even notice that Wilson was hurt, him walking around and, all that kind of stuff. I mean, he's obviously not severely injured. So, you're worried about risk of re-injury, but at some point you either got to, you're good to go or you're not. And you can't, sit there for 5 weeks and be, is he 98%, 99%? Like, you got to make a call here at some point. So we'll see what Tomlin says Tuesday. He was asked about that post game and said, ask me Tuesday. We did not want to entertain any quarterback questions here off the win. Again, I give Fields credit, but the way the offense was built was not really sustainable to win longer term and higher scoring matchups when you're running just boots and everything to the sidelines and not really pushing the ball downfield and not able to finish drives off, and some of the sloppiness, and Pittsburgh a little fortunate to some of those fumbles didn't go against them. That's going to change the that fumble luck will run out eventually if you press it enough. So, I don't want to discredit Fields. He played well, played within himself. That was great. But I didn't see a formula that says he should be the long-term guy.
Here's the thing, too. Don't handicap Fields going into this next game either. Look, I understand there might be some question when this team gets to Wednesday, and we'll see if Russell Wilson's full or limited like that. Where I'm going with this is try to make a damn decision on who your quarterback's going to be by Thursday, by the start of Thursday. Don't put Fields back in the position of I'm going to have to wait until game time to find out if I'm going to start.
Sure.
He deserves more than that, I think. And then they ought to be able to, I would think, by Thursday to know, whether or not they're going to get the Russell Wilson that they want to have out there on Sunday in Denver. And I get the whole going back to Denver and blah, blah, blah. But, nameless gray faces, as far as who cares about the storylines there, but don't put Justin Fields in a position where, hey, you're up. I understand why it happened more to this week, I guess more than others, but try to make a damn decision by Thursday. That would be my want.
No, I'm with you. You don't want to have this, who's in, who's out, not sure on reps, that kind of thing. You want to have some confidence in who your quarterback is. And yeah, as much as I'm sure Russ is going to pine even more to play, at Denver this week, that does not matter. You play the best guy, play the healthiest guy, the guy that you think gives you the best chance to win. The storylines be damned. So that should not be a factor. And I would not expect Pittsburgh to really, Tomlin does not care about that fact. He just wants to go out there and win and start 2-0.
Right. All right. What else do we have?
I should just mention it very briefly since this came out right before kickoff. Brandon Ayuk, hopefully one last Ayuk story that apparently the day that he signed his extension, this is according to Jay Glazer, as plugged in as anybody. The day that Ayuk re-upped with San Francisco, the Niners were about this close to shipping him out to Pittsburgh. And then Ayuk apparently, I don't know if he caught wind of that, but was able to find Kyle Shanahan, sit down, and work out a deal. So basically, Ayuk, I don't want to say he folded last second, but he was like, I want to stay in San Francisco, and signed his extension with the Niners.
Do you believe that?
I mean, it came from Glazer, and he's as plugged in as anybody. It's funny to hear all this stuff come out so later after the fact, but it doesn't really matter. I'm done spending mental calories on Ayuk. He's a Niner, and that's all there is to really care about.
Yeah, it was. And look, Glazer's close friends with Mike Tomlin and all, and yeah, that came kind of out of nowhere. I had to scramble and go find a clip for that.
Yeah.
Real quick there. All right. Anything else we need to cover here?
Let's just talk AFC North overall. The Ravens obviously lost Thursday by a toe to Kansas City. The Bengals upset by the Patriots. That was one of the upsets.
Boy, that wiped out some suicide pools.
Yeah, and no T. Higgins in that one. Jamar Chase limited, and so Bengals are 0-1, and the Browns just looked a mess to the Cowboys. I mean, 33-17 loss does not tell the story about how badly Cleveland was beat. Could not protect Watson. The O-line's been injured. Can't get the run game going. Watson is looking like potentially the worst trade of all time, because we're in year 3 of this thing in Cleveland, and it is getting worse, not getting better.
All right. Steelers got a 1-game lead on everybody in the AFC North. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Just 1 week, but you take it all the same in what should be a very close and competitive AFC North. All right, Dave, any reader emails to close out today's show?
Tons of them. Nicholas Gooden, happy victory money. Looking forward to hearing Jens break it all down. Life feels normal again. Questions for you about the new kickoff. Any new thoughts on it from over the weekend? Truthfully, he says, I just think it looks really weird on the screen. Not sure that it'll get any better. One thing I thought about was the punt kickoff that happens after a team scores a safety. Has there ever been any changes to that play with the new kickoff? He goes on to write a few other things over here. Look, a lot of touchbacks. That's my takeaway. And I think that kind of ended up being the feel that you were getting from coaches around the league that, you know what, probably going to be a lot of touchbacks here. And I'm willing to bet that ends up being the case. And they're going to end up having to make a rule change to either move the kicker back or make the penalty for the ball going into the end zone as a touchback, add more yards on.
I like the move in the kicker back idea. I think that's a pretty good way to maybe solve some of the touchback problems. But it's 1 week. I think teams wanted to be safe and not give up a big touchdown. There was, I think, one kick return touchdown this weekend. We'll see how the year goes. When the weather gets sour, you should get some more returns. And listen, when they made the rule, I remember I think it was Fossil went on McAfee and said we expect 40% return rate. So their intention of this rule was not to have an 80% return rate. The preseason was artificially high at 70% because teams were intentionally wanting to see how the returns played out. They don't want to just boot the ball in the end zone. They wanted to get an idea for what works, what doesn't, schematically, personnel, that kind of stuff. So the NFL is really shooting for a 40% kickoff rate. They still don't want too many touchbacks because that's going to still risk some level of injury there. So we'll see what the number comes in at, and the number may tick up later in the year as the weather gets bad and it's harder to boot the ball through the end zone.
Charles Ammering writes in, hello, gents, underrated play. TJ Watt beats 3 Falcons to the muff snap fumble. Great hustle and awareness. Yeah, well, I mean, goes back to what can you say more about TJ Watt? Second, he writes, Pickens, did you see where he was down by contact on the play where he popped back up to his feet? He says, I did not, and it was ignored by the Steelers and even the commentators after multiple views. That's not challengeable either, I don't believe. Right?
Yeah, you can't challenge that. I wonder, and I agree, it looked odd of a call, but sometimes, like if a player is diving and he brushes up against the defender and then goes to the ground, they will still call that as down by contact. So sometimes there'll kind of be a continuation of contact, even if there's no contact while the player is on the ground. If there's contact, as a player is like diving and they bump into each other and then go to the ground, I know that can also be viewed as kind of extension of contact.
All right. I have not had a chance to go back and zoom and slow it down. I will, though. I'll pass along my findings on Wednesday. Bryce writes in, as far as the Gunners go next week's game, has Scotty Miller earned a starting spot based on a big play on the Boz punt? Who should then try to be the gunner on the other side? They've definitely got to be better from what they were in week 1, he writes. He says, is there now quiet competition between Landon Robertson and Peyton Wilson for snaps at the second inside linebacker spot? Wilson seemed to eat into Landon's snaps. Do you think it's more of a matchup thing for week 1 or signs of something bigger? I think Alex laid it out as far as the personnel groupings and why Wilson this is probably going to be a game by game thing. I think the big takeaway with Peyton Wilson is they're not afraid to throw him out there in these nickel situations. So this might be a matchup thing overall when it comes to those two. What do you think about his Gunner suggestion?
Yeah, again, Wilson and Roberts is by package. Gunner, yeah, I think Miller might have earned it. I mean, he had a great tackle down there, and there's really no clear option separating themselves in terms of who the Gunners might be. Need to check on Rush's health and his status. And Skoranek only gets so many elevations. They could, of course, promote him permanently if they wanted to later in the season. But I think Miller could be one of those guys, and we'll see on Rush's health. And if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm still calling Moss Boykin. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. He should be called. Should be called today, and they should get him in the building. But I'm not sure which way it's going to go. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen. So it might be Miller and depending on health, and you have Skoranek and Rush.
Let's see here from Mike Nickel writes in, thanks for all you do for making Steelers Depot the best source of Steelers analysis. First game looked like more of the same from previous seasons. Super conservative or offensive approach. Hope to win the turnover battle because of that conservatism and keep the score low. While it worked out in this game, he says, I have my doubts that it'll continue to be a successful approach if the offense continues to look like this. And what evidence do we have that it will continue to look like this? Just the past 4 seasons or so, even though they've run through quarterbacks and coordinators. What does it mean again to try the same thing and expect different results? As we talked during the recap, this was a conservative approach to make things a lot easier on Justin Fields in this one. And obviously not going to use the middle of the field, especially with the safeties, that they have, and especially with the game plan, what heavy tight end usage and all, and they were able to run the football a little bit there. As far as it being, look, we've talked. The defense going to have to keep this team in games, period. So they are going to rely on their defense to keep the score 17 or below and win games like that. Yes, you would like let's not overreact to week one, and let's see what happens in and with when and if Russell Wilson gets in there, if they're able to stretch the field a little bit more, maybe work a little at least more to the inside hashes a little bit more. I understand the concern, but we are talking about a W here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. This offense, that is not sustainable to kick 6 field goals and expect to win every game like that. Obviously,
you got to put the ball in the end zone regardless.
Sure, they got to finish some of these drives off, and they should have been against Atlanta, and they should have at least had that final one, and you go up and you end the game right then and there. So, point taken. But I will give some grace week one, like I keep saying, with the quarterback uncertainty, with the newness of Atlanta, all those caveats. I can offer more grace in week one than I can in week 7, or if we see this continual week after week. So agreed, but let's just watch it in week 2 and see how it goes from there.
Nick Shuley wants to know, sad to see Cameron Johnston get hurt after a promising preseason. Do you think the guys may get in touch with Corliss Waitman? Granted, said it was a small sample size, blah, blah, blah. Look, we covered that, Nick. We'll sit here and wait and see if one of maybe these 3 punters comes in here, former punters, and is signed. It wouldn't be surprising. And Waitman, although he wasn't a Steeler very long, didn't seem to be too bad. I haven't paid attention to him during the preseason or anything.
Yeah, I think wing also makes sense. I mean, they looked at him last year, so all seems likely. They'll probably work out some guys today, tomorrow, and go from there.
Vince writes in from Arizona. Having watched Justin Fields' most recent outing, I have to ask an objective question. Do you think Justin's highs going forward are going to be better than what Russell Wilson still has left in the tank? And is it likely to matter after this season? As a Steelers fan, I truly hope so, but frankly, I don't know. Look, we just got one sample size of Fields in a more muted type situation here. We're all, most of us, interested to see what Russell Wilson can do when fully healthy and all. Highs going forward are going to be better. We'll see. I mean, Justin obviously gives you the ability with those legs and all, and that played a little bit of a factor in this game against the Falcons and all. So it's too early to answer this question, I think.
Yeah, I think Fields, I think even before, when they first were on the roster, Fields' highs are higher than Russell Wilson's highs, like at their best. Fields can do some dynamic things that most other quarterbacks, and Wilson certainly can't do, with his legs especially. But, Wilson is that veteran, steadier presence that takes better care of the football and probably trusts a little bit more. So, there's no dispute about the upside and what Fields can be and what he can flash. That's not in question about his ability and his game.
All right, I was afraid we are going to get a question like this from Brett, right? Saying, Brett now, right? Saying, we all know that Russell Wilson's fate will be determined by his performance this season. However, there's a good chance that he will not be back at the end of the year, either because he played well and got too expensive, or we didn't play well enough for the team to want him back. His question is, have you seen enough from Justin Fields at this point? If Wilson moves on, would you be comfortable with him as a starter in 2025? Because ideally, this would be the last extended look you get. He wants us to make a decision on on Justin Fields in 2025 based on what we saw Sunday.
Well, I guess his point is, if Wilson, say, starts week 2 and is healthy the rest of the year, and this is the biggest bulk of information you'll get on Fields, how do you feel about it? I would say that no, I don't feel like handing him the keys and signing him to a big contract here in the offseason. But I think Dave's point is, we're week 1. Let's worry about all that stuff. Week 18, I said when they got signed and added, let the year play out. The year will reveal a lot to us. There's no need to make a decision right now. So there's really not a need to even consider that thought right now. We'll talk about this in January. I promise you, that's all we'll talk about in January.
Yeah, I'm telling you, after just the first game, I'm not I'm not interested in breaking the organizational rule of negotiating contracts in season to make sure I get Justin Fields under contract at a higher price to lock up the starting quarterback spot in 2025. Look, we're going to get this question every week. I have a feeling, right?
Oh, I'm sure, probably, but again, it's all we'll talk about after the season. It's going to come down to quarterback future. That'll be the main storyline for January until March, until they decide on something. So we will have a lot more information and a lot more time and a lot more opportunity to discuss quarterbacks and their futures, come 2025.
All right. I think we're about an hour and a half here, Alex. A few more. If you didn't get your email answered, resend it in. If you think it's still pertinent on Wednesday's show, we'll try to get to it then. Any final thoughts? Woohoo! Want to know?
Should just mention Cam Hayward. Good game from him. Run defense, solid. Push the pocket. First game back. A lot of questions about his ability, and still going to keep watching. But I thought a really good first game out for Cam Hayward.
Wonder if PFF has got their grades up here. Yeah, they do. Real quick, I'll read a couple top 5 on defense grades. TJ Watt at 95.3, Cameron Hayward 89.4, Deshaun Elliott 86, DeMonte Casey 78.2, Montravius Adams 73.8. Where's Ogunjobi in this? They have Ogunjobi at 50.9. They got him for run defense here, looks like. One thing about the grades, no, we don't take them for gospel, but I do like to take scores that they have and then drill them down to see how they may have impacted the PFF scores that way. So just kind
of offensively, any top grades there?
Connor Hayward 77.1 on 5 offensive snaps. Justin Fields 75.9. So once again, Fields did exactly what they asked him to do.
What was his passing grade? Does it have that broken down?
77.4.
Okay. So still pretty good passing grade. Yeah. You play within the system. Yeah.
Yeah. You complete a high percentage of passes like that. And, it's not his fault that one got taken away. Offensive lineman, James Daniels tops at 75.8. Dan Moore Jr., 75.4. Zach Frazier in the green at 70.1. Broderick last at 50.8. Spencer Anderson second to last on offensive lineman, 52.3. Van Jefferson was your lowest graded offensive player by PFF for the Steelers for week 1 at 45.3, and that's not shocking, being as how they have a run blocking grade of 39.5 here that we mentioned was disastrous during this game.
And a lot of empty routes, one catch. It's not a lot doing. Hopefully it's not Allen Robinson 2.0, but it's the Arthur Smith experience, where it's one receiver gets a lot of the looks and the other guys are fighting for scraps.
Scotty Miller's lead special teams grade, 79.3.
He better after that kind of awesome performance.
All right. Shall I get us out of here?
How did Boswell not lead special teams grades, or do they not count Boz under special teams? Or are they kind of doing specialists and teamers differently?
That's a good question. Boswell got a 60 grade, but there's a lot of 60s on here.
What is considered a good kicking score? Whatever it should be.
They obviously don't have a grade for kickoff. He got a 60 grade for his punt. Okay. And he got a 90.3 for his field goals. So they ding poor Boz for his punt.
I'm sorry it wasn't good enough. A 43-yarder that had no return. Apparently not good enough there.
The humanity feels like come on. That's why if you go into the PFF grades understanding it or trying to have an understanding at least how they grade these things and understanding that it's not the Bible, but it's things to at least drill on down. That's how you stomach these things. I like looking at the stat. I think they do a lot of, once again, I think PFF does a lot of things very, very good. But within that, it's not foolproof that you can't punch holes in it just the same. But
I assume they're grading it as if he was an actual punter with a 43-yard punt at whatever hang time, that probably wasn't great. And so that's why it's a lower grade. There's not the context in the number as, okay, this is my kicker punting and we're happy about that. So that's probably why the grade is lower.
Yeah, he still win AFC Player of the Week for special teams week 1. All right, shall I get us out of here? Had some fun today.
Yeah, good show. No live stream tonight. That's just part of our schedule. But we'll be back on Wednesday to discuss Tomlin's Tuesday presser and whatever else happens from there.
All right. You can.
Wait, hold on. One second. Season-ending knee injury for Cameron Johnston, according to Ian Rappaport. Of course, no surprise there. And so don't have details on the nature of the injury, but according to Rappaport, it is season-ending. And so we can assume an IR stint will be happening for Johnston here shortly, get a punter in to Pittsburgh soon. And just unfortunate. Johnston, I was expecting a career year, or at least a record-setting year in Pittsburgh from an average standpoint. And that is over. That pursuit is over one game into the 2024 season. So feel for that guy.
Yeah, certainly do, man. Finally get a punter, and then this happens to him. Sad. Okay, you can follow me on Twitter or /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. Follow the directions that way. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.